The morning my niece told me I was living too comfortably, I was standing in my own kitchen, wearing the same cotton robe I had owned for 11 years, drinking instant coffee from a chipped mug that said "World's Best Teacher." I had not bought myself anything new in 8 months. I had not taken a vacation in 3 years. I had not one single time complained about any of it. She said it like it was a fact, like she had looked at my life, measured it against some standard I was not aware of, and found me guilty of having too much. I set my coffee down very carefully, and I did not say a word. But something shifted in me that morning. Something quiet and old and patient finally stopped waiting. My name is Dorothy. I am 67 years old. I live in a 3-bedroom house in Columbus, Ohio, that I have owned for 22 years. I retired 4 years ago after 31 years as a registered nurse. I have a pension. I have savings. I have a vegetable garden in the backyard that I am genuinely proud of. And for the past 6 years, I had been quietly, faithfully, without a single complaint, paying for 89 separate expenses that belong to my niece and her husband. 89. I want you to sit with that number for a moment, because I know how it sounds. I know what you are already thinking, and I want you to understand I thought the same thing too, once, before it happened to me. It started the way these things always start, not with a grand demand, not with someone sitting you down and saying, "We need your money." It starts with something small, something that feels like love. My niece, I will call her Renee, came to live near me in Columbus 6 years ago. She was 29. Her husband, Marcus, was 32. They had a daughter, my great-niece Chloe, who was 4 years old and had her grandmother's eyes and a laugh that could fill a whole room. They had moved from Atlanta because Marcus said there were better opportunities up here, better jobs, a fresh start. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. The first thing I paid for was nothing dramatic. Renee called me one Tuesday evening and said the electricity was going to be shut off, and could I help just this one time. They had just moved. Things were tight. It was $142. I paid it before I even hung up the phone. That was the first of 89. Over the following months, the list grew so gradually that I never saw it for what it was. Their car payment, because Marcus's job fell through and they needed 3 more weeks. Chloe's daycare, because Renee said she could not focus on finding work if she was worried about childcare. The internet bill. The phone plan, both of them, on my account. Renee's gym membership, which she said was for her mental health, and I did not have the heart to argue with that. Groceries. A new mattress, because the one they had was hurting Renee's back. A security deposit when they moved to a bigger apartment. First and last month's rent. And then Marcus got a job. A good one, $68,000 a year. And then Renee got a job. Part-time at first, then full-time, $41,000. And I kept paying. I kept paying because by then it had simply become normal. Because no one ever said thank you, Dorothy. We've got it from here. Because every time I thought about bringing it up, I would remember Chloe's face or the way Renee had cried on the phone that first Tuesday night. And I would tell myself that family takes care of family. That is what my mother taught me. That is what I believed all the way down to my bones. What I did not know, what I could not see, was that while I was paying 89 expenses on a retired nurse's pension, my niece and her husband were living a life I had never been invited into. And I do not mean that poetically. I mean it literally. The trips to Miami. The weekend in New York. The designer bag Renee carried to my house one Sunday that I recognized because I had once seen it in a magazine and noted, idly, that it cost more than my monthly pension check. The renovations to their apartment. The new living room set. The dinners at restaurants, where a single entree cost what I spent on groceries for a week. I did not know any of this until I saw it. I had driven to their apartment one afternoon in March unannounced because I had baked a sweet potato pie and wanted to drop it off, and I found them in the parking lot loading luggage into a brand new car I had never seen before. Not a used car. Not a reasonable car. A car with a lease sticker still on the window, and that particular shine that only comes from something that has never been driven in rain. Renee saw me, and her face did something complicated. Not guilty, exactly. More like mildly inconvenienced. "Aunt Dorothy," she said, "we're about to head out." "Where are you going?" I asked. "Nashville. Just a long weekend. Marcus got us a cabin." I stood there holding a foil-covered pie dish, and I did not know what to do with my hands. I looked at the car. I looked at the luggage matching luggage, the kind with the little wheels and the hard shell. I looked at Marcus, who was loading bags into the trunk without making eye contact. "I just came to drop off a pie," I said. "Oh, that's so sweet," Renee said. And she took the pie from my hands without opening it, handed it to Marcus to put in the car, and kissed me on the cheek. "We'll call you when we get back." I watched them drive away. I stood in that parking lot for a long time. A woman walking her dog passed me twice before I moved. That night I could not sleep. I lay in bed in my house that I had owned for 22 years, in my old cotton robe, and I started doing something I had never allowed myself to do before. I started counting. I went to my kitchen table with a legal pad and a pen, and I wrote down every single thing I was paying for. Not from memory, I am a retired nurse and I am organized, and I had every bank statement going back 6 years in a folder in my filing cabinet. I pulled it all out. I sat at that table until 2 in the morning. 89 expenses. Every month, their car payment, $387. Their car insurance, $214. Renee's phone line on my family plan, $45. Marcus's phone line, $45. Chloe's school lunches, charged to a card I had given Renee for emergencies, $180 per month. Groceries, or what I believed, were groceries charged to the same card, averaging $620 per month. Their streaming services, 3 of them, linked to my accounts, $42. Reneestum, viisi. A storage unit, $89. A pest control service for their apartment, $65. Chloe's dance lessons, $120 per month. And on and on and on. I added it up 3 times because I did not believe the number. $3,040. Every single month. For 6 years. That is $219,840. I sat at my kitchen table at 2 in the morning, and I looked at that number, and I felt something I do not have a clean word for. It was not anger, though anger was part of it. It was something deeper and quieter. It was the feeling of finally seeing something that had been in front of you the entire time. I did not cry. I had spent enough years as a nurse that I had learned to hold myself very still when something devastating was happening. You do not panic. You assess. You breathe. You make a plan. De plan. I did not call Renee. I did not send a message. I did not show up at her apartment. I went back to bed, and in the morning I called my bank. I want to be clear about something. I did not do this in anger. I did not do this to punish anyone, though I understand that is how Renee would describe it later. I did it because I sat at my kitchen table at 2 in the morning, and I realized that I was 66 years old. I had worked for 31 years, and I had less in savings than I should have had at 50. I did it because I had not taken a vacation in 3 years, while my niece was taking long weekends in Nashville in a new car. I did it because the word comfortable, the word she had used that morning in my kitchen, had been sitting in my chest like a splinter ever since she said it, and I finally understood what it meant. She was not worried that I was comfortable. She was worried that I might become comfortable enough to stop. I canceled the emergency card first. Then I called the bank and had both phone lines removed from my plan. I called the car insurance company and removed their vehicle. I logged into every streaming account and removed the linked payments. I sent a certified letter to the storage facility. I called Chloe's school directly, not Renee, and explained that the card on file was no longer valid, and that Chloe's lunches would need to be handled by her parents going forward. That last one was the hardest. I want you to know that. Chloe was not responsible for any of this, and I made sure before I did anything else that the school had my personal number in case there was ever an issue. I was not going to let a child go without lunch because her parents had made choices, but I also could not keep pouring water into a bucket that had no bottom. 89 payments. I ended every single one. I did not call Renee to tell her what I had done. I did not send a message. I turned on my porch light, watered my garden, made myself a proper dinner for the first time in weeks, and I waited. She called on a Thursday, 4 days after Nashville. The first call I let go to voicemail. Then another. Then a text. "Aunt Dorothy, the card isn't working." Then another. "Can you call me?" Then Marcus's name on my screen, which surprised me because Marcus had not called me directly in 2 years. I answered on the second call from Renee that evening. "The card is declined," she said. She did not say hello. "Yes," I said. "I know." There was a pause. "Did something happen to your account?" "No," I said. "I closed it." Another pause. Longer this time. "What do you mean you closed it?" "I mean I reviewed my finances," I said, "and I made some changes." Changes. She repeated the word the way people do when they are trying to decide if they heard correctly. "What kind of changes?" "The kind where I stop paying for things that aren't mine to pay for," I said. "The car insurance is canceled. The phone lines are off my plan. The streaming accounts are closed. The storage unit, you'll get a letter about that. I'd take care of it this week if I were you." The silence on the other end was so complete that I checked to see if the call had dropped. "Are you serious right now?" Renee finally said, and it was not a question. It had the tone of a warning. "I am," I said. "Aunt Dorothy." Her voice shifted. Softer now. The voice she used when she needed something. "We are family. You know how tight things are right now." "Renee," I said gently, "you and Marcus together make over $100,000 a year. I know this because you told me. Things are not tight. You have simply been spending money that should have been yours on things I was covering." She went quiet again. Then, "I can't believe you're doing this." "I want you to know," I said, "that I love you. I love Chloe more than I can tell you. And that is exactly why I'm having this conversation instead of just disappearing. But I am 66 years old, and I need to take care of myself now. That's not a punishment. That's just the truth." She hung up. I sat with the phone in my hand for a while. Then I got up and made myself a cup of tea, real tea, the loose-leaf kind I had been saving for something, and I sat on my back porch and I listened to the neighborhood going quiet for the night. The weeks that followed were not peaceful. I want to be honest about that, because I think people expect a story like this to turn clean and simple once the decision is made. It does not. Marcus called me and explained, very calmly, that I had put them in a difficult position, that they had built their budget around certain assumptions, that a sudden change like this was not fair. He used the word fair 3 times. I let him finish, and then I told him that I had given him more than 3 years of notice every single month in the form of a payment to build a budget that didn't require me. Renee's mother, my older sister Gail, called me from Atlanta. Gail said she didn't want to get involved, and then proceeded to be involved for 45 minutes. She said I was being cruel. She said Renee was stressed. She said family was supposed to help family. I told her I agreed completely, and asked her why Renee had never once asked how I was managing on a fixed income. Gail did not have an answer for that. There were 2 months where things were very cold. No calls. No visits. No Chloe. I missed Chloe every single day. I will not pretend otherwise. I missed her laugh that could fill a room. I missed the way she called me Auntie Dot, because Dorothy was too long for her when she was small, and she had never updated it. I missed her at my kitchen table eating cereal on Saturday mornings. But I also knew the way I had known things as a nurse, that steady quiet knowing that if I gave in now, I would be teaching everyone exactly what my limits were worth. I did not give in. What happened instead was something I had not allowed myself to hope for. In April, 6 weeks after the phone call, Marcus came to my house alone. He knocked on my door on a Saturday afternoon, and he stood on my porch with his hands in his pockets. And he looked, for the first time since I had known him, like a man rather than a performance of one. "Can I come in?" he said. I made coffee, real coffee, not instant, and we sat at my kitchen table. He talked for a long time, about Atlanta, about why he had pushed so hard for Columbus and the fresh start, and what he had thought that meant, about the gap between what he wanted his life to look like and what he was actually willing to build, about Renee, and the way they had both and he said this carefully, like he was not sure I would believe him, convinced themselves that what I was giving was a gift freely offered, rather than a resource being quietly drained. "I didn't count," he said. "I never sat down and counted." And when I finally did, he stopped, looked at the table. "I want to pay you back, Dorothy. I don't know how long it'll take, but I want to." I looked at him for a long time. "I don't need the money back," I said finally. "What I need is for you to take care of your family the way a man with your income can take care of his family. That's it. That's the whole thing." He nodded. He did not make promises he could not keep. I respected that. Renee came 2 weeks later. She did not apologize the way I had imagined she might. There was no speech, no breakdown. She sat across from me and she looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep, and she said, "I think I forgot who you were to me. I think I started seeing you as a resource instead of a person. And I'm sorry for that. It was not everything, but it was real. I could tell the difference." Chloe came back to my kitchen on a Saturday morning in May, and she ate cereal and told me about her dance recital and called me Auntie Dot, and did not know that I had spent weeks missing exactly this. I did not tell her. Some things a child does not need to carry. I want to tell you what I did with the first full month of money that I kept. I booked a trip. Nothing extravagant, 5 days in Savannah, Georgia. A hotel with a porch and slow ceiling fans, and a restaurant around the corner that served shrimp and grits from 6 in the morning. I packed a suitcase I had owned since 2009 and never used. I drove myself to the airport, and I sat at the gate, and I felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Like the money in my account was mine. Like the life I was living was mine. I am 67 now. My garden did well this summer, better than last year. I replaced the chipped coffee mug. I started a book club at my library on Tuesday evenings. I have taken 3 trips in the past year. Nothing fancy, but mine. Renee and Marcus pay their own bills now. Every single one. They have a budget. They argue about it sometimes, Renee tells me, and I tell her that is what a real budget feels like. They are figuring it out. Chloe is in 3rd grade and still calls me Auntie Dot, and I am still the person she asks for when she is sick or scared or just wants someone steady. That has not changed. That was never at risk, even when it felt like it was. But here is what I want to say, and I mean this for anyone who is sitting at their own kitchen table at 2 in the morning with a legal pad and a number they cannot believe. The love does not disappear when the money stops. Real love does not depend on the money. If the love goes when the money goes, then you were not protecting love all those years. You were purchasing proximity, and proximity is not the same thing. I know that now. I should have known it sooner, but I know it now, and I am 67 years old in a house I have owned for 22 years, with a garden and a book club and a full savings account, and a great niece who calls me Auntie Dot, and I am, finally, comfortable.